here's advice on how fired up you should get for a wrestling match. We like to say you should be on the edge of anger, not completely psyched up. On a scale of 1 to 10, you don't want to be a 10. Now that's okay for a power lifter. They have to pick up real heavy weight for 2 seconds and then they're done for the entire day. You don't get that. You shouldn't do that with wrestling. But then again, you can't go out there under excited. So we like to tell our athletes to engage about 10 minutes before the match, engage in positive self-talk, pace back and forth, start talking to yourself about the match and what you're going to do. Start visualizing yourself getting big, hard takedowns, winning close matches at the buzzer, chunking people on their back, scoring points. Get yourself emotionally up for the match. Also, music is also good. A lot of the famous Olympic athletes in all sports use music. When I was a wrestler, I thought that was a sign of weakness, and I never did. Then I went to a tournament, and sure enough, Dave Schultz was listening to music before his big wrestling match, and I was like, maybe it's okay to listen to music, right? Well, certainly it is. Do anything it takes to win. Once you make that approach, I think wrestling gets easier for yourself. But as far as getting too psyched up, think about this. There's another video here about the Joe Namath story, but I'll repeat it here. Joe Namath, back in the day, he was competing well in practice, but not in competition as a quarterback. And the performance coach said, I want to evaluate you. Followed him around for the week, game day. Sure enough, he's getting hyped up for the game with the entire team. The linemen have a different job. See, a quarterback can't be extremely out of his mind fired up, where maybe a lineman can. And the reason is this. Once you snap the ball, the whole game plan or the play that you have called, it can go awry. A wrestling match is the same way. That's the reason on our videos here, on other videos, we encourage you not to try to map out the match. I can map out, a marathon. Mile 6, I want to be here. My heart rate should be there. I want to be running this time. I want to be in the upper 20% of the pack. I mean, who knows, right? A gymnast can map out. They do map it out. They know exactly what their routine is. It's the same routine that they've practiced for the past four years or so. If you're a level 8 gymnast on the balance beam, your routine's been the same, since you moved up from level 7. There are so many constants. Wrestling is not like that. I don't know what my opponent's going to do. Boxing, just any combative sport, even basketball. Once I get the ball, I just have to put the ball in the net. I have to figure the sport out as I go. Now, obviously, shooting from the free throw line is a constant, but any other time of the game, it's not. A baseball player, I don't know what you're going to throw at me. I have to figure out the game. Every time the ball leaves your hand, I have to figure it out on the fly. So wrestling, you can have a rough, loose game plan, but you cannot figure that. You need to give up on trying to figure out what's going to happen on the match and say, I'm going to accept the fact that I have to figure out the match as it goes. That's like the great Kyle Schneider post he put out, what said, I have zero fear of the unknown. And that's what makes him strong, right? He admits that he has no fear of the unknown. And there's a lot of unknowns. We don't know what's going to happen on the wrestling match. We engage in this in our camps and academy. I'm like, here's the exercise, guys. Hey, Nick, what's going to happen on the mat this next match? And I say, don't have a clue. Who's going to win? Well, hopefully I do. I feel pretty good about it. I got a rough game plan, but who knows what's going to happen when the ref blows a whistle. This kid might wrestle differently than he did last time. I have to figure the match out as I go. Just like a quarterback. Once you snap the ball, you don't know what's going to happen. So give up the control and say, this is a sport that I have to figure out as it goes. So as far as a quarterback is concerned, knowing that you cannot get out of your mind, angry and psyched up like the football lineman does. He's trying to block the big guy in front of him. You know, the other guy's trying to get around the big guy in front of him and tackle the quarterback. There's a few unknowns there, but for the most part, it's a different sport. So Joe Namath started not getting so excited and fired up for his matches or his football games, and now he's one of the most famous quarterbacks ever, right? So he was getting too worked up. So in wrestling, I think we do that too sometimes. You don't want to get too worked up. So we say this: use music. I think it's a great avenue, and you can use music during the 2 to 4 to 6 hours of break time you have, and listen to calmer music, right? You don't want to listen to amped up music all day, because your music affects your emotions. You have no control over that. That's why we like music, right? So use it as a tool, but usually about 10 minutes before, get amped up for the match. We like our athletes to get, it's proven most athletes compete better at a level 7 to 8. So, get up to maybe a level 9 or 10, and then bring it down a notch or two. Take a couple of deep breaths, and make sure you go out there very, not overly fired up, but mostly not under. When you're overly fired up, you start too soon, your coach can whistle at you and say, hey, slow down a little bit. You're like, okay, yeah, you're right. It's easy. But if you go out there under-prepared, it's tough to get excited. I know, or it's tough to turn that around, especially if, these short matches. Now, remember, a soccer match is 45-minute halves, 2 of them. An hour and a half for a soccer game or a soccer match. Wrestling, you only have 3 minutes as a kid, 4.5 as an older kid, and 6 in high school. Not a lot of time. You go out there underprepared, I think you're going to find out that it's going to cost you. Years ago, my son went into a match. He was like 10 or 11, and the kid pushed him into a table. He banged his ribs on the corner of the table. He came out there fired up, and he ripped that kid's head off. I go, that's a nice job, Ty. Now, next time, now you need to figure out what? You need to figure out how to get mentally and emotionally, because it's not just mentally, it's emotionally up and prepared for your matches without requiring your opponent to throw you into a table, because they're not always going to do that for you. And he just kind of laughed, but I think he got the point. So there's my spin. Get up to a 9 or 10, come down to a 7 or 8, and give up on trying to control the match. And understand that you have to figure the match out on the fly. That's the reason you can't be ultra angry and fired up for the match. But you do have to be on the edge of anger. Good luck.